Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves standing at the precipice of a defining moment in the history of women's professional basketball, a moment where the tectonic plates of labor negotiations and economic reality are grinding against one another with a ferocity that threatens to swallow the upcoming season whole. We must turn our analytical gaze toward the unfolding saga of the WNBA collective bargaining agreement. For the narrative currently being spun by the sports media apparatus requires not just observation, but a rigorous, intellectual dismantling. We are presented with an article penned by Annie Constable, which posits a premise that is, frankly, disorienting in its framing. The headline suggests that the WNBA could be mere weeks away from delaying its season. Yet it is the subtitle that truly demands our scrutiny. A line that asserts the league likely needs to agree to a CBA by February to ensure the season commences on schedule. One must pause and ask, why is the onus of agreement linguistically shifted onto the league itself? Why does the syntax of this reporting not reflect the palpable reality that there is a substantive, lucrative deal currently resting upon the negotiating table, awaiting the signature of the players' union? It is a framing choice that betrays a specific, increasingly pervasive agenda within the sports media landscape, a reflexive alignment with the pro-player narrative that often eschews the cold, hard mathematics of business. The implication that the league is the obstinate party here is a distortion. The owners have presented a path forward. It is the union's refusal to walk it that brings us to this impasse. Let us dissect the financial chasm that currently separates these two entities, for it is deep and potentially unbridgeable under the current demands. The players' union submitted a counterproposal, a document they claim was met with silence. Multiple sources indicate that the league simply did not acknowledge it. While the players may view this as an act of disrespect, an objective analysis suggests a different conclusion. The owners did not acknowledge it because the proposal was, in economic terms, a non-starter. The union is seeking a staggering 30% share of the gross revenue, coupled with a salary cap of $10.5 million. When the ownership groups have already publicly stated that the union's proposals would result in a financial loss exceeding $700 million, simply ignoring a document that demands such fiscal suicide is not an act of malice. It is an act of business survival. The owners are not going to sign a death warrant for their franchises. That proposal, simply put, is off the table. Conversely, consider what the league has actually offered. They are proposing a mechanism where they share roughly 70% of the net revenue over the lifespan of the deal. They have put forth a structure where the maximum base salary begins at $1 million, a figure that would rise to more than $1.3 million with revenue sharing in the immediate term. But here is the critical detail that often goes unmentioned in the breathless reporting of grievances. By the conclusion of this proposed CBA, that maximum number escalates to nearly $2 million. The proposal includes a salary cap starting at $5 million in year one, growing in tandem with the league's revenue. The owners are attempting to construct a mechanism where player compensation rises organically as the business stabilizes under the new media rights deal. They are asking for patience to see what this new economic landscape actually looks like before committing to payouts that do not yet exist. This standoff has begun to reveal fractures within the player base itself, cracks in the foundation of solidarity that are becoming impossible to ignore. We have witnessed A'ja Wilson, a four-time MVP, taking to social media with a clip from the show Reasonable Doubt, captioned with a sentiment that implies she is on the verge of screaming if someone does not start talking. But one must ask, to whom is that frustration directed? Is she screaming at the league, or is she screaming at the leadership of her own union? Sophie Cunningham recently articulated a sense of confusion, noting that players are receiving only bits and pieces, mere tidbits of information regarding the negotiations. It appears that the rank-and-file membership of the WNBA is operating in a fog, unaware of the specific machinations occurring in the boardroom. This confusion brings us to a strategic divergence that may soon tear the union apart from the inside. We know that there are roughly 60 players participating in the unrivaled league. These are the stars, the upper echelon of talent. But what of the others? What of the players who occupy the 6th, 7th, or 8th spots in the rotation? What happens to the players who do not have the safety net of a secondary league or massive endorsement deals? These are the individuals who will soon be looking at their watches, realizing that a guaranteed paycheck is sitting on the table, and wondering why their leadership is gambling with their livelihoods. We are heading down a road where infighting is not just possible, but probable. The player who needs that check to pay a mortgage is going to look at the deal, money that allows them to return to the table in 3 years to renegotiate, and they are going to say, "I need to get paid." Amidst this turmoil, the WNBA has executed a maneuver of psychological warfare by releasing the schedule for the 2026 season. The league wants the world to believe that tip-off will occur on May 8th. They announced a 44-game slate, accompanied by a statement claiming this release was necessary to allow essential planning to begin. This is a profound disconnect from the reality of the labor negotiations. The union was silent on the release, but the players' social media reactions tell a story of bewilderment. Wilson's post, "Me looking at the schedule release," suggests a player base that is stunned the league is proceeding with business as usual, while the CBA remains unsigned. Furthermore, the schedule release itself contained omissions that can only be described as wild work. It barely mentions the marquee matchups that drive viewership, the Indiana Fever versus the Dallas Wings, the prospect of Caitlin Clark facing off against Paige Buckers. To release a schedule without highlighting the very rivalries that are fueling the league's explosive growth is a curious, almost baffling decision. It speaks to a chaotic operational environment where the left hand does not seem to know what the right hand is doing, or perhaps it is a deliberate attempt to downplay the reliance on specific stars during a contentious negotiation. The timeline we are operating under is unforgiving. The original deadline of October 31st came and went. The second extension to January 9th passed with no deal and no agreement to a third extension. We are now drifting into dangerous waters. The reporting suggests that the best-case scenario for free agency is now early March, and that is contingent upon the ink drying on a new CBA by early February. This compressed timeline creates a logistical nightmare. In a typical year, free agency would be wrapping up by now. Instead, front offices are facing the prospect of conducting free agency and preparing for the expansion draft simultaneously. However, let us challenge the notion that the league is unprepared. It is my understanding that on the ownership side, the directive is business as usual. Do we genuinely believe that these franchises, with their millions of dollars in infrastructure, do not have their draft boards ready? It would be the height of irresponsibility if the leadership across these teams did not have their mock drafts completed, their protection lists finalized, and their free agency targets identified. They must be ready to execute the moment a deal is signed. If they are not, it speaks to a level of incompetence that is disqualifying. The machinery of the league must be primed, even if the engine is currently stalled by labor strife. The compression of the calendar is severe. If free agency begins in early March, teams will have a mere month to construct rosters before training camps open on April 19th. And right in the middle of this chaotic scramble, they must navigate the 2026 WNBA draft on April 30th. It is a schedule that leaves zero margin for error. The union proposed eliminating the prioritization designation to ease some of these burdens, but the league has remained unresponsive to that suggestion. This silence is calculated. The league is holding its cards close, refusing to concede on structural points while the financial core of the deal remains unresolved. We must now confront the elephant in the room, the court of public opinion. Both sides have emphasized their commitment to the league's 30th season, but if this season is delayed, if games are lost, the blame will not fall on the owners. The pressure is now squarely and heavily on the players. There remains a segment of the fandom, perhaps 20%, who cling to the irrational belief that the owners are hiding money, the pay-them-like-NBA players crowd. To be blunt, these individuals are operating with a profound lack of intellectual seriousness. They are ignoring the economic reality that the league has historically never turned a profit. But the vast majority of the public, the fans who have been worked into a lather of excitement by the schedule release, who are circling dates on their calendars, they are aware of what has been offered. They know there is a deal that raises the salary cap. They know there is a deal that offers seven-figure salaries. If the players choose to strike, if they choose to walk away from the table and the season goes kaput, or even if we lose a mere 3 games to a work stoppage, the damage to the WNBA will be devastating. We are talking about a fragile momentum. You have a massive influx of new fans who were brought in by the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, many of whom were already teetering on the edge of walking away after the public relations disasters of the previous year. If you tell these fans that there is no basketball because the players refused to sign a deal that offered them a 300% raise or more, the backlash will be catastrophic. The owners have built a mechanism where the players can make more money. They have offered a path to share in the upside of the media rights deal. They have put millions upon millions of dollars on the table. Players to look at this offer, an offer that transforms the financial reality of the average player, and reject it in pursuit of a 30% gross revenue share that would bankrupt the league, is a strategy fraught with peril. The infighting we are beginning to see, the cracks in the foundation, suggests that the players themselves are waking up to this reality. The bench player, the distinct non-superstar, is realizing that the pursuit of ideological purity regarding revenue splits is not going to pay the bills in May. This situation requires a sobering look at the stakes. The WNBA wants us to believe planning is underway for a May 8th tip-off. The reality of the collective bargaining agreement paints a starkly different, far more ominous picture. We are witnessing a high-stakes game of chicken where one side is driving a car fueled by actual dollars and business projections, and the other is driving a vehicle fueled by grievances and unrealistic economic demands. If they crash, it is the league itself, its viability, its growth trajectory, and its relationship with the fans that will be the casualty. The narrative that the league is weeks away from delaying the season is a rhetorical device designed to apply pressure. But pressure without a release valve leads to explosions. The players must understand that the public sentiment has shifted. The sympathy that once existed for the underpaid athlete evaporates when the offer on the table creates millionaires. The fans are not interested in the intricacies of gross versus net revenue. They are interested in watching the best basketball players in the world compete. If the players' union denies them that opportunity, if they allow the season to win because they refuse to accept a monumental pay raise, history will not look kindly upon their strategy. We are watching the clock tick down. January has nearly evaporated. February looms as the supposed deadline, a line in the sand drawn by media speculation, but rooted in logistical necessity. The mocks should be done. The boards should be ready. The money is sitting there waiting to be claimed. The question that remains, haunting the halls of the players' union, is whether they have the wisdom to seize the victory that is already in front of them, or if they will continue to scream into the void while the foundation of their league begins to crumble beneath their feet. It is a spectacle of immense proportions, a drama that transcends the court and enters the realm of existential business survival. The outcome of these next few weeks will define the next decade of women's sports. One can only hope that rationality prevails over rhetoric, for the alternative is a silence in the arenas that no amount of social media posting can fill. Consider the gravity of what is at risk. Consider the momentum that could be lost. And ask yourself, who truly holds the future of the WNBA in their hands right now? The answer, uncomfortable as it may be for some to admit, is the players. The deal is there. The season is scheduled. The world is watching. It is time to sign the paper.